The world is a wonderful place, full of beauty and danger. I once walked into the wild, naked, with only this knife. I was in search of a primal memory, the caveman in all of us. I felt the heartbeat of Mother Nature, her splendor, her wrath. And I almost died. I walked out of the wild forever changed, although my journey has just begun. We are rolling.
Love it. Okay, who's Gary Golding? Like, if I'm getting to know you after you're not working with the kids, and where you're not doing things for the environment, and where you're not saving lives, who is Gary?
I'm basically a big kid. You know, I'm basically a big 9-year-old who's just angry at the adults of the world for destroying this place for me to play in. I'm a man who lives for a sentence, and every single thing I do revolves around that sentence. Consume as little as possible. Because people say, are you a beekeeper? Are you a teacher? Are you an environmentalist? Are you a survivalist? And no, I'm a man who lives for a sentence, and every single one of those things revolves around this sentence. I've always loved nature. I've always hated materialism. I've always watched people, I grew up broke. I watched people pick on me and make fun of me and others for being broke and having less. I wore ripped up shoes with holes in them that were $3 shoes. They were from Boys Market. My friends used to call me Boys Market shoes because they had bands on their feet. My mom had to make OP shorts and sew on the logo so I could make them by hand so I could look like I had the designer clothes the other kids did. My friends would also give me some clothes to wear when we'd go out and say, you can't wear that, Gary. I have a vision. I want to see the day when the man with the least amount of possessions is the most admired. It is my desire to show the world a man who became successful off of wanting nothing.
Now your upbringing is basically translated into what you do now. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on materialism.
Materialism is the #1 most sick, vicious form of bullying by people in a first world country. Consumption, consumption, consumption is destroying this planet. A lot of people believe that with success comes high consumption. The consumerism is an army of people that is devouring the planet that is much more larger than any army from any other terrorist group in the world. The shopper, the person that needs luxury items, is the one that is fueling the war machine and causing all the damage to the earth that you see around you. Consumption is the #1 cause of why the planet is falling apart. It's why we go to war for resources. I don't believe in just sitting there idly and watching the world go by and hoping someone does something about it. Because that's why I exist. That is my purpose on the planet, because I will personally do something about it. Okay. You berry. Sprouted, 7-grain bread. A banana. You just saw me feed 50 people on Skid Row from a dumpster for free. I want to see the day when being a minimalist is fashionable and sexy. A day when the man or woman who consumes the least is the most attractive. Is that so controversial?
what's the one thing you're going to bring with you and why?
When I went on to Naked and Afraid, I was only there to carry a message to humanity. It was the only reason. I didn't need to prove, my ego wasn't there to show my kids or like to prove that I could survive. No, I just had to go survive out there because I'm a good survivalist to carry the message. It was my way to infiltrate mainstream media. So I told them exactly why I was there. In fact, I told the head honchos of Naked and Afraid, they said, well, are you ready? And I said, no, are you ready? Because you're part of something bigger than your show. So I'm recruiting you to spread a message. I'm using this as a stepping stone to change the world. I let them know that, and I meant every word of it.
And I'm an environmentalist. I'm carrying a message, and that message is consume as little as possible. Because if every human on Earth did that today, the planet would be cleaner by tomorrow.
And so basically, after the first episode of They Aired Once, they said, well, we don't know if we can carry your message, but they did let me wear my shirt in the interviews, and it did get seen in my first episode. The second one, I was diluted with 12 other people, so I knew it would be harder to be seen and to get my point across. So I went 2 weeks before I went into Africa, and I tattooed this on my back, blasted it for the rest of my life, because I knew I owed it to society to be on a TV show that's seen by 91 million people around the world in so many languages, to carry this message to humanity, and that every time I wouldn't even have to say a word. Every time I turned my back to the camera, I'd be yelling it at the world. I'm going there for the children and the animals of the world, so we can make this place cleaner in the future, so they have a chance, so they have a planet to live on.
Overall, yes, I agree with Gary. Do we consume less? Yes. We don't need everything that we're consuming. Back in 1985, we hit the limit of using an entire Earth's worth of resources due to our production and consumption activities. So understand that in 1985, we hit the limit. And what that has meant is that every year since then, we have overshot the Earth's ability to provide the resources for all the things we want and or to regenerate itself. I was invited to San Francisco, California to begin an environmental consultancy that worked on environmental planning and communications and very, again, large-scale conflict resolution programs.
Owning the environmental communications company.
I did take over as executive director of the Sustainability Consortium.
What is the vision of the Sustainability Consortium?
We really went around the world and learned what was wrong, what was right, what was doable. And it was during this time I got a good dose of reality on our overproduction and overconsumption practices. To cities and regions around the world where you couldn't even see across the street because the air was so cool. I would go back to my hotel room at night and just cry. I would just lay down on the bed and go like, how could we treat people like this? How can these conditions exist? Why are we doing this? Why did the government regulators let this happen? Well, how do people who have Mercedes and BMWs and they're parking lots allow people to live in sewage. I mean, what's happening here? Just the emissions that we're emitting as a result of these factories, of these mining activities, of this fuel consumption, are destroying our children's lungs, and they will never live with the same quality of life that we've been able to live with. So absolutely, it's not fair, and and we're the ones who have to make it fair for them.
Hey, celery. Maybe 300 people. Can you believe that? 300 people could eat that bread right there. Imagine there's probably, how many? 200,000 of these dumpsters in the United States? I bet you, I wouldn't doubt, bagel places. The reason I dumpster dive is to contribute as little as possible to the draw on nature, on the system. I don't like to buy my meat. I get my meat for free. I rescue it to make sure the animal didn't die for nothing. I honor that piece of meat. I honor the dead animal that's in a trash can. I find 15 to 20 chickens at a time who are going to die for nothing but to become garbage. That's why I dumpster dive. I don't dumpster dive because I have to. I actually dumpster dive because I love to.
Okay. Now, that's how Mr. Gary eats for free. So listen. Now I want to teach you guys something because it's Day After Earth Day. Now the most powerful sentence on earth, I'm going to tell it to you guys because this is very important, okay? Look, that's the most powerful sentence on earth. Consume as little as possible. Because if we all did that today, the world would be cleaner by tomorrow. And your parents' generations and stuff like that, they're taught to consume. And now, do you guys know how much trouble the earth is in right now?
No.
Like me, when I go to someone's house, I don't accept a bottle of plastic water. I won't accept plastic water. I carry my own bottles everywhere I go. I take my own to-go containers to restaurants, and I carry a plastic bag in my pocket, so I clean up the earth everywhere I walk. So consume as little as possible, all right?
What we don't realize is that when we buy, some small commodity, I mean, for many people it's a bottle of water, or a little pair of plastic glasses, or piece of paper, or whatever it is we buy. We think, this is 5 cents, this is $1, this is $2. Well, no, it's not. If you look at the supply chain, it doesn't cost $1 to deliver these glasses or this bottle. I mean, by the time you pay the administrative people and the staff, you ship that bottle, you melt down that plastic, you get the ink for the labels, you get the paper for the thing, you've paid for insurance of the company, you've now moved it across the country, now you've had people stock it. It's a lot more than $1. If we were to pay the real cost of that bottle of water, it would be $20. And so what happens is then we don't understand the value of it. We never understand the value of it.
Why would anybody consume more than they actually need? You could apply that to food. Why do people overeat? Why do people live in bigger houses than they need? Why do they buy more stuff than they need? Is it because they're just greedy? Or is it because they're actually craving something that may be unreachable?
It's quite natural growing up in this society to have this understanding of what it is to exist and how the world works, because for one thing, our economics reflects it back at us, our experience of living in a competitive economy, a money-based economy, where we're always in competition with each other.
many of the things that people consume don't actually serve their happiness, but they can be a distraction from meeting the needs and the satisfactions that so often go unmet in our society.
We have a lot of people grossly unhappy because they're chasing shit to spend money to buy dumb shit to impress people they don't even like.
Human beings' insatiable desire to get their needs met and to fill their holes with stuff and something that they think is going to make them happier is at the core of this dilemma.
We think our feelings count, which is why we like shiny stuff and balloons and jewelry and fireworks, because we think that we deserve that. There's a Mylar balloon factory that produces 600,000 Mylar balloons a day. Like, that's something just shiny to stare at.
When we think about it, what gives you the most satisfaction, the greatest sense of well-being? We are not born here just to dominate and accumulate and have and keep.
That's the message here, is that we need to be more aware. We need to think about what we buy.
Could you imagine hundreds of millions of us doing this? If you just take a little control because you think you matter, then you will. Because in one day we could affect a huge amount of litter that hits the earth.
We've put almost all ecosystems and all major animal species on high alert. So much so that we've got people thinking we got to move to another planet, and start all over again.
People need to change. This whole world needs to change. It's like something major needs to happen to wake us up.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people. This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announcing a statewide stay-at-home order for nearly 40 million people who live there.
The Prime Minister has announced the most drastic limits to our lives that the UK has ever seen in living memory.
Go home and stay home.
Mandiamo I carabinieri, ma li mandiamo con i lanciafiamme.
A casa non deve uscire nessuno, e a Messina non esce nessuno perché c'è un'ordinanza.
Dovete stare a casa! Non avete capito che la gente...
Attenzione, les habla la policía, que de manera inmediata
Our government is prepared to do whatever it takes.
The Prime Minister has announced the most drastic limits to our lives that the UK has ever seen in living memory.
You must
the aim, he
stay
says,
at home.
Mother Nature has put us on timeout and sent us to our rooms to think about what we've done.
Mother Earth has given us a message.
So that is the gift of a crisis. A crisis interrupts normality and gives us a different perspective on the things that we had taken for granted and assumed to be normal and unchangeable.
With entire populations ordered to stay at home to slow the spread of the deadly coronavirus, we have seen unprecedented reductions in carbon emissions and air pollution, most notably in China, Europe, and the US, some of the top consumers in the world. With industrial processes, road and air travel slowed down, nitrogen dioxide, a pollutant believed to be the cause of a myriad of respiratory illnesses, declined by 30%. This is the lowest atmospheric nitrogen dioxide level ever recorded since NASA's satellite data record began in 2005.
We're seeing a massive shift underway, and that's really exciting when we look past the tragedy of the crisis and the tragic loss of lives and the economic impacts to individuals, and we look at this from a very big perspective, and we see that what it shows is humanity's ability to shift gears very quickly.
Typically, smog-filled skies are clear. New York has seen carbon monoxide emissions drop by 50%, less than half of the level reported last year.
There is definitely that environmental relationship between the impacts that this crisis is having and, of course, the long-term positive benefits that we can get from this.
People in Punjab, India can see the snow peaks of the Himalayas for the first time, a view that for decades has been blocked by air pollution. Fine particulate matter, the world's deadliest air pollutant, dropped by 180% since quarantine measures were imposed in Metro Manila, Philippines' capital city. Normally cloudy water canals and lakes have transformed into water crystal clear enough to see marine life swimming below. Certain wildlife are exploring out of captivity, and some of the most heavily trafficked and endangered species are being left alone.
So we have ultimately impacted every single tiny little microbe or particle of the earth to meet our own benefits. And now that we understand that, now that we are seeing the impacts of our actions, it's really the time for us to start to take that knowledge and turn it into a positive anthropocene.
The good I see coming out of this pandemic would be putting things in perspective.
Yes. The COVID-19 epidemic is taking away some of the things that we took for granted. And as we do without them, we can ask ourselves, do we want to reclaim these things when the crisis, or if the crisis is over?
We were given an enormous opportunity to rethink our place on the planet and rethink the role we play and rethink our consumption, our production and consumptive patterns.
Basically, it'll kind of drive home maybe who is truly important in the world and what truly is important in the world.
We can make a conscious choice about what to bring into our lives.
We don't have to buy 50 things a day and just put blinders on. We can actually stop a little bit and go, if I'm going to buy this one thing, I'm going to check it out.
So just take the initiative.
Creating a lifestyle that enables you to have the lightest and lowest footprint on the planet.
There's no plan B. There's no planet B here.
What kind of normal do we want to create now that we have the opportunity?
We are this incredible experiment, and we are in this time where we can find ways to be a positive force on the planet around us so that we can continue to flourish, so that we can continue to live here on this beautiful planet.
You know, It's like this. Imagine you're on a bus full of children, and it's racing towards a cliff. And it's gonna go off the cliff, and the bus driver's asleep. And you're on the back of the bus, and you can't make it up to the bus in time. Are you gonna be politically correct and try to walk up to the bus driver and politely tap him on the shoulder and say, excuse me, bus driver, would you please wake up and stop the bus? No, you're not. You're gonna stand at the back of the bus and you're gonna scream at the top of your lungs, stop! Stop the bus! Stop the bus! And you're gonna yell as loud as you can. You're gonna try to startle the bus driver and wake him up in order to make him stop the bus. And don't you see? We're on a bus, and it's called Earth, and it's got every child on the planet on it. And I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs. And the driver is humanity. And I'm screaming, please stop the bus! Stop the bus! And I'm the crazy one?